Welcome to SportH.E, the podcast that brings you insights and learning from the best in the business. I'm Ben O'Connell, and in each episode, we'll hear about both the successes and the challenges of our guests as they've sought to grow, develop, and improve. In sharing these stories, we hope to inspire and inform the development of sport across universities in the UK and contribute to the growth of one of the best sporting ecosystems for young people in the world. In this episode, I'm joined by Neil Brown, Director of Sport and Active Health at the University of Strathclyde. Neil started this role just as a £31 million facility development had been greenlit. Having been open for around 8 years now, we get an opportunity in this conversation to be taken back through the process of designing, building, and ultimately operating a sport facility of this size. We hear not only about the building itself, but also the culture and leadership journey Neil and his team went on, and get to reflect on the difference this project has made to sport at Strathclyde through experience, partnerships, recruitment, and profile.
So it's about trying to make sure that you create that individual experience for the people. And that's what Glen Eagles really did drill into, every time you walk down a corridor, say hello. Eye contact, head up, eye contact, say hello. She insisted that myself and colleagues as and when from sport were in every single design meeting. So I guess that was a great opportunity to flip what could have been challenges into successes. So straight away we were on the kind of front foot in some of that. 95% or so of our students who replied to the survey say that we positive impact on their social, physical, mental well-being. So again, so that engagement piece and the purpose of why we're here. Again, I think that's a good, strong metric there.
Remember, you can check out my reflections from this episode and all of my other guests at benoconnell.co.uk. Let's get to it then. It's time to welcome Neil Brown. Welcome to SportH.E, Neil. How are you doing?
Thanks, Ben. Great. Thanks so much for inviting me on. It's great to see this season you're using the cameras this time. People did say I've got like a face for radio, so let's see how this works. But great to be out here.
Yeah, no, really pleased that you've joined us today. And yes, I do feel slightly sorry for the guests that have joined this season because it does mean that the cameras are on. But it'll be. We'll have a great time. So let's get started then. So can you take us back to your earliest memory in sport? What is it and why does it stick out?
So I'm generally glad that you gave me time to think about this when you sent this one, because it's actually surprising. It's not the one I thought it might be, or one that I ever thought was. And it's actually going way back when I was maybe 5, 6. I can't put an actual age on it, but it was when my mum was teaching me to ski up north in Scotland in the Lecht, very close to my home. And she was teaching me, so I probably remember it for being on my backside, crying, cold, miserable, falling down all the time. And I can't give myself credit for being that intuitive then, but looking, probably close enough to that time, looking back, thinking, well, my mum's pretty cool. She could teach me how to ski. She skis. She's a really good skier. Went to, abroad with my dad quite a few times, and she could ski, but she's also really good at tennis and squash and a hill walker. And she was a great mum. And I was like, wow. And my dad had quite a severe car accident when he was late teens, but he still ran, up to about 8-10 marathons with, don't go people out, but okay, one kneecap, another in 3 bits, and still did marathons. He played rugby, and again, he played squash and was an avid hill walker. And I thought, well, there's something in that, just doing lots and lots of stuff and having great fun. So yeah, when I was skiing, I thought, yeah, this is cool. So I kind of fast forward to my time as a kid. I swam, played rugby. I was a failed footballer, 2 left feet. Quit at S1, but I was really fast and tall for my age. I was always a centre half. But I loved rugby, so I swam, ran, played rugby to kind of regional level through my youth, but then kind of stuck to rugby, and my body's regretting that decision in some senses. But also I was thinking of it as well. I thought of it from a spectating perspective as well, and my greatest memory as a spectator was 1990 Grand Slams. Last time we won it, so you got to give us something. 1990 Grand Slam. I was there for the Scotland-England game. David Soul walked us out. As a kid, I was about 10, 11 at the time. I've never heard a noise like that in my life. And it was just absolutely amazing to be there. And I was right next to the pitch. And at full time, the end of the play was right where I was on the pitch. And it was full time, and my dad lost me because I was on that pitch. I jumped in the back of one of the second rows, I can't remember his name, and I was just running around, and I went, where's my dad? Okay, but I better go back and find him. But that, to me, scrum half for Scotland was a trucker by trade, and he just came on the pitch, beat England. Obviously had a few shandies that night before, and Monday he was back in his truck doing his job when it was very much amateur days. But he became my hero, Gary Armstrong, and kind of stuck me to really focus and play rugby. So yeah, so 2 different perspectives, I think, what my memories are. But yeah, you got to love watching the sport as well as just playing it. So that's what I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've spent a lot of time in Scotland now, and that 1990 Grand Slam victory is something that has been spoken about a lot in my wife's family. And there's a story they tell that my wife's father apparently went to the toilet just before
No.
Stanger scored the try, so he'd never been allowed to forget that one.
He's never left his seat ever since.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, absolutely
Yeah.
iconic, and it's great to be able to say I was there the last time we won this Grand Slam. Yeah, we won the Five Nations, but Grand Slam, absolutely brilliant.
Amazing. Okay, so let's get into so your professional career then. So talk to us then. What did your professional career look like? How did you get into the sport industry, and then ultimately, sort of what led you to becoming head of sport at Strathclyde?
I'm probably very stereotypical route into sport, as I've just alluded to. Played sport, loved sport, absorbed the sport. I kind of say to my friends, probably I'm quite one-dimensional. I talk sport all day, and then maybe go to the pub with my mates and talk sport. So I'm quite one-dimensional, but maybe I'm not alone in that field. But it's great to be there in that space. But yeah, so I very much wanted to just have a career in sport. I didn't know what shape or form that would take, but managed to get into Glasgow University and did sports science, and obviously that was really exciting. Back in the kind of late 90s, sports science was really kind of evolving into, testing athletes and working with the Scottish Institute of Sport, English Institute of Sport, etc. But as I kind of went through that, I started to realise this course is really kind of making me become a lab technician, kind of wear the white coat and test the kind of real scientific way. That just wasn't starting to tick the boxes for me. I really felt I was going to be more practically orientated in my career path and things. So I started to think about, well, what is next? And I started looking out, and at the time I was graduated, so Glasgow Uni alone was graduating maybe upwards of 100 sports science graduates a year. But there was only 2 sports science jobs in Scotland. One's at Celtic, one was the Sport Scotland. So obviously, well, you need to think of something else and maybe diversify a bit. So I did go up to Aberdeen University and did a Masters in Sport Nutrition. And that could have obviously just made me a bit more niche compared to a generic sports science graduate. After living on a sofa for 6 months trying to find a job with ex-student friends, it was at Glen Eagles Hotel. So very lush, very kind of 5-star, they're in their kind of fitness club. And that can really show me about, quality customer care, and meet expectations clearly, and the ability to deliver them. And whilst the hotel is very, very premium, at the end of the day, they don't, obviously they want to keep the margins, they don't throw a lot of money in it. So you understood how to balance delivering excellence, but keeping things on a lid on price, budgets, etc. Then I moved into Sport Scotland and worked in their National Sports Centre, Largs, Inverclyde. And that's where I started to open up a bit more understanding, awareness, and involvement in high performance sports. That's where I started getting into the domain of strength and conditioning, started to be able to apply my sports nutrition a bit more to relevant kind of athletes and things. But also gave me that autonomy and decision making process, because I ran the gym, it's by myself, and I had a team of 2 or 3 part-time staff that kind of popped into the busy time stuff, and it was just a kind of commercial gym slightly off to serve the local small community off the side of the big sports centre, to try and do that kind of community engagement piece. Lasted a year there, and then my mum was playing tennis with a friend. She went, "Oh, your son is in sport. I saw this job at Robert Gordon University in Aberdeen," and she just popped over to me, and I was like, "All right, okay. I'll give that a shot. It looks good." And fast forward, I got the job, and it was unbelievable 10 years. And everything from day one, my boss, and he's infamous in the sector, Phil and Tony, I'd say, put on my desk, you've got 300 grand, build a gym. And all the brochures, from Precor, Life Fitness, and there's other brands out there, just build a gym. And I was like, all right, okay. So that was really exciting. And then it really allowed me to develop experience and understanding on academic teaching. So I ran and delivered 2 modules in the sports science degree program, trying to give students the vocational qualifications as graduates of at university, to give them the vocational qualifications to go into the gym or Group X environment, and then obviously maybe try and get them into the sport strength and conditioning world. And we ran an internship program to give them those skills as well. And also, everything was from scratch. So this building we built back in 2003-04 was the first facility that RG had ever had in sports. So we were starting everything from scratch. So it was a great experience, opportunity for myself to evolve those programs from nothing. So our high performance program that we evolved was absolutely brilliant. We loved doing it. We had Rachel Corsie, captain of the Scottish national team, stayed for 4 years with us. We had Hannah Miley, multiple Commonwealth Olympic athlete there, other Olympians, etc. So it was a real great program to try and retain some of that talent up in the north of Scotland, give them that opportunity of the dual career. So it was just really, really amazing opportunity for me to learn all of those areas of university sport.
Just going back then to some of the bits you've picked out there, interested to know from your time at Gleneagles, is there any? So you said that you still take some of this stuff with you from a customer service perspective in one of the world's greatest resorts. Is there anything that you could share with us that you that you took from that experience that still lives with you today?
Gleneagles as well is about that customer care. It's a courtesy, it's that eye contact and awareness of individuals, and getting to know people and getting to know the nuances of certain members. Gyms can be guilty of, you've got hundreds of people through your door in every hour, and you've got thousands of members, and they become a bit you can't identify the individual within that. So it's about trying to make sure that you create that individual experience for the people, and that's what Gleneagles really did drill into. Every time you walk down a corridor, say hello, eye contact, head up, eye contact, say hello, and if they want to stop and chat with you, then that's what you do. But if you obviously you just keep going otherwise. But you definitely want to make sure that you give them that great experience, that they feel just I belong here. I enjoy this. They know me. They like I can engage with them, and it just we all know it. We're all about inclusion in university sport and breaking down barriers and stuff. And that just simple hello goes so far, and our front of house staff are just superb at it. The way we designed the building to make sure our receptionist, the initial drawings, we might get onto it, but initial drawings almost had us as a cinema booth that you're side on to the entrance, people walking into your building. I was like, no, turn it. We want to face that front door, so we're making eye contact within 10 meters of them coming to us, and we're saying hello, everything like that, to engage and make them know that we know they're there.
Yeah, no, well, thanks for sharing that with us, because there are some great takeaways from your early career there. So thinking back then to when you first started in the role at Strathclyde, talk us through, if you wouldn't mind, the environment, what it was like at the time, and how did you feel about the challenge, the opportunity of stepping into such a big role?
Yeah, I mean, obviously luckily I was staying within the sector, so I also had a bit of element of confidence of understanding things. But yeah, it was obviously daunting moving to quite a well-established department, a bigger university, bigger department. I mean, I think the average length of service of the team I inherited was about 20 years of length of service. So there's a lot of knowledge, a lot of expertise, but pretty some ingrained ways of working and thinking that maybe I might coming in and reflect, I might be getting challenged about, and maybe come up against it. I think, that's maybe not how we want to move forward, especially if we fast forward into a brand new facility. So it was, and my predecessor had been in the department and led the department across about 15 to 20 year window as well. So they've had kind of quite a lot of continuity of leadership there. So, very well settled team, so yeah, you got somebody coming in who possibly be perceived as a novice, because it was my first gig at being head and a director of sport. So, you're getting, not in a bad way, but you're getting judged, of, well, what's this guy going to be like? And that's where the imposter syndrome could creep into your thinking as well as a leader and things. But like I said, I saw the opportunity of the new facility, and as I got into the team, I started to see, well, this could be an opportunity to really reset old-fashioned practices, that and maybe take that culture shift of how we could take our experiences from the old building and evolve it and mature it into a modern, actual fit designed for sport building. I mean, our sports facility, the gym and stuff, was it was an old office. When you're on a treadmill, the roof was about 6 inches from your head, etc. So there's a lot of things that would evolve, and we'd have to really kind of look at that. And old systems, we had a 4,000 kind of membership database of users on Excel spreadsheets. And obviously with all we know about what MRM systems can do these days, then that was going to be a challenge of different ways of working. And also the kind of the culture of, and I think probably some things that they're probably guilty of from not seeing for looking, But my first couple of days, I realised from the front door to the first set of doors in the building, we shouted at our members 17 times. Don't do this. You must press that. Don't go there. All these kind of, and it's just, I think people just, you don't see it. You just don't realise how many times you're saying don't. And that's not a welcoming experience for the user. So we was just trying to understand, well, how do I use those to flip into, well, how do I take them with me to change those things for how we may model and deliver good customer care and experience moving forward to the new facility. So yeah, lots of opportunity and excitement, but it was quite daunting to start with, really.
Yeah, and I can see then how your previous experience in hospitality, retail, leisure, that those sorts of things would come, just fed into that sort of your ability to kind of influence those changes from the start. So what were some of the early things then that you did to start building trust with, as you said, what was already an established team?
So this is first time I'll plug your podcast, but it's great that you kind of gave me confidence listening to Phil Steele when he talked about he's not really one for formal processes and structured things. I'm very much the same, but sometimes you wonder, oh, am I really doing it wrong if I'm not really that ingrained in it? Because I know other people very much are. And you get great success on it. I'm not doubting it at all, but I'm not one for it. And kind of coming from a sports science degree background, I've never had formal training in management, leadership, etc. So, but subsequent CPD, obviously, I've been doing over my career. And to elements has validated how I just fundamentally believe we should be doing things. It's obviously absolutely still giving me a lot of learnings, but it's kind of fundamentally kind of giving me where I think just where the common sense and instinct comes through, that I've made good choices, I've made wrong choices, but at least you can validate that at least we're hopefully on the right path, to keep move forward. So, but I'm a great believer of making sure that you design systems, things that will empower others, and instill trust in their ability, and obviously make sure they enjoy their job. You bring them with you, make sure that they feel that their expertise are being utilised and listened to and incorporated into any kind of formal thinking. But that's a challenge sometimes when you sometimes might be time pressured, etc. You might be saying, I want to get there. Yes, you can help me get there, but we're going to have to work fast and quick. And I may be a bit more dictatorial about it, but you just got to get that balance. But as long as you're transparent about when and where that may have to come in, or you're in that phase, you just got to accept that. And it happens to us, even from out with sport coming down and dictating to us. So we've got to accept that may happen sometimes. But obviously, building that trust within the team, also, like I said, inherited historic relationships within the team and the dynamics within that. So obviously I had to come in with a clean slate, make a mindset, to make sure everyone felt that they had their equal footing, an equal place to share their qualities and allow them to let them shine them through for us. And doing that allowed me to see their strengths, obviously coming through on whatever areas, and maybe some areas that I wouldn't have appreciated they would have had strengths in that particular situation or place in the work. And hopefully all of that's been done with authenticity as well. And fundamentally, you just got to make sure that you're not disingenuous. You make sure that if you've dropped the ball, you drop the ball and you own it. And that sets the standard as well. So you just got to make sure that you're really authentic with them. Like I said, as we were building a vision, what would be in place, I touched on MRM systems, excuse me. You got to make sure you take those relevant team members with you, and that's everyone from the front of the house who are selling the products, using the system, to the back office staff who are making sure it's functional, it's not falling down with any particular membership type categories. And obviously, the people like with your department, the IT departments, and want to plug it into your student central record systems and stuff. And you've got to make sure everyone is coming with you, because, like I said, we're moving from an Excel spreadsheet and an very old-fashioned system that the university built to take payments for anything. Your residences, your fees, and sports membership. Even I think the coffee shop was in it somewhere as well. So we were going for obviously a dedicated system for us to really take control of where we're all at now, wanting to understand our own data sets and maybe make to target things. So that was really important to make sure that everyone felt that when we were going through these journeys of building new systems and processes, that they were because they were going to be handling it when it was live. They did have good strong input in those.
Right, and I think just something I've been reflecting on recently, and just I can hear it in your experience there, that oftentimes when you're in the thick of trying to drive change, thinking about how important it is to almost sort of celebrate some of those successes and those small wins, because as you just you do one thing and then you're on to the next and then you're on to the next, and you get to 5-10 years down the line, you're like, well, actually, yeah, we've actually come a really long way. But just how often you then through that journey offer the opportunity to pause, reflect, and both for yourself but also for the team that you're working with, to say, well, actually, yeah, we've done some amazing stuff here.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right, and because and again, I presume we'll talk about it soon. Obviously, we built a new facility, so those who've done this journey know you're spinning about 50 plates. So you've got to keep moving fast on all of them, because you never get the time you want when it's a capital project, and you've just got to make sure that you're ready for that door opening for day one as much as you can. So and on reflection, you probably sometimes may not have the time, like you say, to step back, but or even maybe get the right balance between communication with your staff. But I guess you just got to keep fighting hard on that to make sure that they don't feel left out, or they don't feel they're not being listened to or heard, and challenges are being addressed as quick as you can. But it can consume you sometimes, that you just got so much going on that you miss some of those situations. But I think if you do get the chance to reflect, you need to be, again, own it, go back and speak to those people. If we may have passed the opportunity to impact on that, but you've got to acknowledge that maybe that was the case, and accept that you're responsible for that as the leader, etc. But yeah.
That's a really good point. A really, really good point. I love that. So that's a good segue then. So let's get into talking about some of the facility development. So I've been fortunate enough to speak to a number of guests that have not maybe so much in the more recent history, but have been involved in some large capital facility development. So so we know that you opened I believe a £31 million sports centre at Strathclyde. So can you take us back through the project? What were the successes and the challenges along the way?
Yeah, I'll give you a few, because as anyone has done this, well, there's a lot in both columns, so I'll kind of pick out a few from our learnings and things on that. So we opened our new building in 2018, September 2018, so right on time to start the semester, which was ideal. But working back from that, so I started summer 2015, and about a month after that, university kind of fully approved the capital investment. So I was luckily there for day one, first draft plans, right, what we build in here. And so grateful to the director of estates at the time. She insisted that myself and colleagues as and when from sport were in every single design meeting, because I've heard of other buildings on our campus. I'm sure it will resonate. The actual operator of the facility is not round the table at the earliest stage possible. You're starting inheriting things. You're going, oh, that's wrong. I would do that differently. So thankfully, we were from day one. So I guess that was a great opportunity to flip what could have been challenges into successes. So straight away we were on the kind of front foot in some of that, and what that allowed was it. And I absolutely respect the industry and trade of architects and engineers, etc. I cannot do what they do, but they can't do what we do. And we've got to have a shared appreciation of everyone's needs. So we caught a few things that as operators we fundamentally thought was crazy. But they were almost like maybe working too specifically to industry standard or things like that. But it was just like, no, that just won't work. One example, and it's not an industry standard, but one design decision they wanted to make was that our strength and conditioning space, our performance gym, was going to be on the ground floor, and the fitness suite was going to be 2 levels above that. And I was just like, well, 10-50% of my staff's time is going to be walking up and down stairs. So no. And also it doesn't allow you, if you have it one big space, it doesn't allow you to bleed as trends come and go. Probably the most comical one was that when it came to the colouring of the building, they insisted they wanted the building to be black and gold. Now, Ben, you'll know from your previous employment whereas that colour is very close to my university. So, and we know students are tribal. We may wear maroon when we compete. So I had visions of our students just refusing to enter the building because it was in University of Glasgow colours. I could quite believe it. So it took me a couple of weeks to convince. It didn't matter that students don't own the colours. It was, students are passionate about what they want.
So I remember playing sport in the old Strathclyde Sports Centre, and then and have been fortunate enough to be in the new one. And it's difficult, isn't it, quite to convey probably on a podcast just sort of the size of the change and the not just in terms of volume, but into everything that went alongside that. So certainly don't underestimate at all the size of the change and the challenges that you had in front of you and what you've managed to navigate there. So, but no, some great examples there, and hopefully lots for people to take away. So I'm keen then to move on to, so the facility's been open about 7-8 years now. So so what sort of impact has it had on sport at Strathclyde? And if you thinking back now, if you had your time again, is there anything that you would do differently?
Yeah, again, there's thankfully we've got several metrics on how we feel its impact, but I guess so the business case that went it went forward, that was approved, kind of predicted that we'd get about a 30% uplift in revenue, footfall, membership levels, etc. But within 2 or 3 months, we were at 100%. We doubled our membership. We were at 4,000 members. We're now, and then we moved to 7,800, 8,000 members within 2 or 3 months. So, and that's the thing. When we opened and saw that, we didn't create like 4,000 new gym goers. They all knew what they were doing. They were proficient, etc. So there must have been a lot of gyms around us opened that in the morning and went, where have they all gone? So and thankfully we've retained them. The halo effect has stayed. We've managed to maintain. Obviously, we've all had our dips through 2020, 2022, through COVID and things, but we have kind of come back strong. So we've managed to retain that. So it's not just been, it's shiny, it's exciting, a new place. We've managed to retain that. So we've been very positive there. Again, we all survey, but 95% or so of our students who replied to the survey say that we positive impact on their social, physical, mental well-being. So again, that engagement piece and the purpose of why we're here. Again, I think that's a good, strong metric there. Early doors, when we were kind of maybe a bit quite confident, maybe too confident, but confident going around saying, sport's going to do stuff. This building's going to move the dial. We got told by somebody, the university will sell sport. Sport doesn't sell the university. And I went, that's a challenge. Okay, I'll take it. And that's kind of lit my fire, and maybe some of my colleagues' fire a few times to prove that we do. And obviously, kind of fast forward to now, we're all becoming quite data rich, and we've got to be able to find that evidence, and we are starting to find that evidence about, well, we're proving that statement wrong. We absolutely are. We're bringing in, again, some of this won't be kind of new for some people listening from other institutions, but we're bringing in a lot more high performance athletes because they are seeing what we're offering.
Yeah, so there's some real gold dust in there. So I was fortunate a couple of years ago, and I think you might have seen me deliver a presentation on the trip, the very fortunate trip when we went out to Washington for a week, and we got to go to sort of 4 or 5 colleges out there. And one of the things that stuck with us at that point was that regardless of the institution that we went to, and almost kind of regardless who you spoke to, whether it was people in sport or out of sport, the phrase that they used all the time was that sport in the American system is viewed as the front porch of that university. So whether you were, we went to like Georgetown as an example. So very prestigious academic college, but sport was still viewed as the front porch to that university. And I've found that very interesting when you come back and you hear examples from yourself where, so Strathclyde, an academic institution, very, you'll get a good degree there, but not maybe understanding or realizing the place that sport can play to complement and support everything else that's great at the university. I'm also really keen when I'm speaking to fellow directors of sport just to understand the oftentimes sort of the journey that we have to go on, where there are changes in personnel within a university, new strategies come on board, new priorities get identified. So how, amongst all of that and delivering some sizable projects for the university, how have you gone about sort of working within the university community to I suppose, to keep pushing that message of the value of sport and changing it from being that sport can now kind of sell the university as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think, in summary, we've probably done really well engaging the top end of the university, but we're probably still struggling in the middle part. The kind of, probably below deans, heads of schools, and I guess those are probably the people that are actually delivering what we're maybe asking to be done, reflect and challenge, scholar flexibility, getting exams sat in France, etc. So those the operate, they're helping with the operations, but certainly, from the principal. So we've just lost our principal from retirement. He's been there since I've started. I think he's been at Strathclyde all his life, literally all his life. So he's been on our journey with us, and he's absolutely embraced it, and he loves sport, and he really was really positive for us. So we always had good wins with him. You know, every time pretty much every time we went and asked for more, because we were running off our feet, and we were being really well. We could evidence we were being really impactful. We were getting the yeses a hell of a lot more than no's. So we got more staff because the facility was just so overrun. We got more partnerships in sport with governing bodies. So we always kind of got some really positive wins. But in that, and I've been really supported really well by my manager. Shona came in after me, and what I loved from her, the first meeting with her, she literally said, how do you want to be managed? And I thought I actually took me a minute to really reflect. Oh my God, I've never been that directly asked, that and reflect on that. So, but it just kind of showed that trust that she instantly was instilling in me and giving you that authority for your leadership and accountability. But she's absolutely still there, and she still does absolutely challenges and keeps us honest, rightly so. So that's been really powerful and really helpful, and it's really beneficial to allow us to continue with that momentum of the noise moving upwards. And her boss, who's chief commercial officer, who sits within the university's senior office, she's a great ally as well. So I've got very little resistance to get to that top, because there's a lot of support to go through. And we've now just had, for 7 months or so, we've had a new principal. Luckily, he was an internal appointment, so he's seen our journey. So there's less probably advocacy to do, and he's been very positive throughout that time. He's a judoka himself, so I won't spar with him, because I would get beaten, but maybe you take your losses to get a win, don't you? So maybe I'll offer that. But he was at our rugby varsity just last week, 3,500 students from Glasgow Union and ourselves, women's, men's game, spectacular event. And when you get the email Saturday morning, 9 a.m. from saying that was superb, loved it, thanks very much. Well, instant impact and success. So now I've got to do it in. So it's just that constant drip feed of information. Send him the video just to remind him how good the game was. The students have made and things. And so we've had real good traction with our principals. And deans particularly as well, because we have tried to broaden our offering to our performance athletes and scholars, and how do we get them into the university, through scholarships, etc. There's been some real positive momentum there, and some of that's been coming out of our sports partnerships. And I think those have been really good vehicles, our partnerships, to really try and get that buy-in to understand. And again, it goes to go back. When we were going on journeys, we took our team with us. So when we go into those departments, we try and give them that journey as well. Well, the rugby player, the swimmer, or netballer, go and sit with them, talk to them, tell them what this means to them, to be able to study and represent your country. And they will buy into that, and they do. A lot of the academics do, and really enjoy it. So it is just kind of using all the information we've got, and just keep the noise loud and directed to the right people. So yeah, so far we've been pretty positive on things. You'll never get every win, but I think we've had enough that we can keep momentum really strongly on aspects of what we're offering. So yeah.
And so, sorry, and just to unpick then, so one of the bits there. So, in terms of, are you then you're putting some of those athletes that are those high performers in front of academic colleagues and getting them to talk about their journey and their experience?
Yeah, and what we do is obviously we try and get the scholars to make sure that they're communicating with them about their successes. Say, thanks so much for letting me get off. I won this, or I got to play in that. And give them the whole journey, give them the whole story. And again, like other universities, probably we do kind of scholar receptions, and you invite these people in, the deans and the principal in, and you introduce, this is our scholars for 2025-6, and we're just about to organise doing, and here's the success. Another reception. Here's the successes of these athletes, particularly in a year where there's Olympics and Commie Games. You want to keep that noise going in those times. So yeah, we try and get the athletes to interact with them as often as we can. But obviously not too much overkill, but we want to make sure it's just hitting the sweet spot. So we'll keep learning, and obviously everyone's different. You just got to take each relationship differently. But yeah, certainly you got to utilise the student voice and the student journey. We can only say it, but if you hear it from them with the passion they see it, it's hard not to buy into it, really, isn't it?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Okay. So some of the other stuff that I've seen coming out of Strathclyde, and I know that you've been heavily involved in, is developing, and has been linked to the new facility, but developing some key partnerships with national governing bodies of sport. So yeah, could you talk us through sort of one or two of those and how those have ultimately improved the offer for students?
Yep, sure. So, yeah, we've grown a kind of suite of them now. So we've got one partnership with Glasgow Warriors, the professional rugby team up in Glasgow. We've got Scottish netball, Scottish swimming and water polo, Scottish hockey. We've got two flagship ones: Netball Scotland partnership and Glasgow Warriors partnership. And in Netball Scotland, we were initially part of the franchise Strathclyde Sirens. And they unfortunately didn't get one of the spaces in the new Super League system that was evolved. So, but now we're one of the two pathway centres that are now positioned in Scotland, along with colleagues in Edinburgh. The partnership with Netball Scotland is really kind of throughout it, the consistent part has been the director of netball role. It's a dual funded role. It really ticks all the boxes we want. It's seen all the professionalism being brought into netball, seen that growth in engagement, growing the number of teams, growing an intramural. And they've been really solidly performing in the Premier League in Bucks, and they've had a cracking year this year in particular. But we've got a lot of alum and current students who are in the kind of the Scottish Thistle system, and obviously a lot of them got really excited about obviously selection for Commie Games in the home city of Glasgow. So that's been a real important to us. And netball's probably, out of all the partnerships, netball's the only one that's not male and female, because obviously netball is at the moment is clearly predominantly female orientated. But our funding into rugby through the Warriors partnership is very much, we've got a director of rugby, and there's also a head coach for the women's team. Again, both roles are in partnership with SRU and Glasgow Warriors. Again, these two relationships with netball and the Warriors, we, as an institution, we were already quite good at these sports, so we clearly had a talent flow potential coming through already. We also wanted to build a bit, continuity to that, a bit more robustness around that pathway. So we wanted to obviously showcase that we've got a partnership relationship there with a high performance coaching, access to all the kind of high performance services, the strength and conditioning, nutrition, psychology, and things.
And just last question then before we move on to some wrap up questions. So in either of those, either the Warriors partnership or the Scottish netball one, what do you think are some of the important characteristics of a good NGB relationship?
I think it's got to be driven by what are your shared values. I think you've got to work with people that they you understand each other's purpose, and you're going to come and deliver having the same mindset and ethos. So our university have got five values and stuff. So people orientated, ambitious, collaborative, innovative, and bold. I think, if I've not said that one, sorry. So these partnerships were never done before in the university before. So it was absolute Hail Mary, as it were, from the principal to say, yeah, Neil, let's go with these. So that's the boldness coming through. And the ambition was, we wanted to obviously, achieve better things in growing the game, but obviously competing at a better level and things. But the people oriented, it's got to be about the athlete. We want the athletes to succeed on dual fronts. We're not going to set students up to fail. We're not going to lower the academic threshold to get a student in just because we want to be good at netball or basketball, etc. So they have to meet the academic rigor, and we respect that, and we absolutely drive that home, because there's nothing worse. You bring a student in and they fail or they're unsuccessful in the degree, and that's not right. We won't do that. And there's absolutely got to be that mutual trust and transparency. We've got to understand equally why we're in it together. And we recently went through that journey, and it shows the greatness of our sector that we had a partnership with Scottish Netball through the Silence franchise and stuff. And obviously when that kind of dissolved, the Scottish Netball and ourselves were saying, well, what can we do next? And there was an organic conversation that Edinburgh, again, were very good at netball. So we were able to just have that absolute honest, transparent conversation about, we're in this together. The greater good of Scottish netball will be served well if we work together. Yes, we'll have fun going toe to toe to try and recruit students and on the pitch, or on the court, sorry. but that's sport, and that's what we love. But the sector, we work together, and Mark and his team across in Edinburgh, it's been great fun working with them, and it just emphasised that transparency. You just laying out, yes, both two different institutions, but this is what we're doing it for, and this is how we'll do it collectively. And we'll not kind of try and get one up on each other and things like that, in the sense of how we build this. So it's been really, really good in that sense. And then fundamentally, obviously, kind of talking about evidence and the university going upwards, we've also got to make sure that they understand how it's going to help us achieve our university-wide strategy, because we want to obviously say the value of what we're doing is doing this about attainment, retention, recruitment, etc. So it's just that shared learnings and shared values, I would say.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for sharing those with us. So let's move into some of the wrap-up questions then. So is there a book, a podcast, or a resource that you've either gifted or recommended the most to somebody, and why?
So I'm not a huge reader, I'm not going to lie. However, two good books I've had around leadership and things was one. I had a brief stint with a mentor, and he gave me a book, Turning the Ship Around, from Captain David Marquette, if that's how you pronounce his surname, submarine commander from the US military. And he just talks about how devolving responsibility and autonomy in a nuclear submarine, about how, don't come with me with a problem. Tell me what the challenge is and what you think you should do about it. So it's about empowering people. So I thought it's again, thankfully for me, it's a punchy book. But the message is quite clear and it's really strong. The other one I got with going through a CPD leadership course was Leadership Plain and Simple. And just the fundamental strapline there is leadership isn't complicated. Keep it simple. Instill trust and empowerment.
Brilliant. Well, we'll put links to all those in the show notes so anybody else can check them out. Next one. So can you tell us about an experience you've had that you would never want to repeat, but it's profoundly changed you for the better?
So this is probably one that will interest, maybe surprise some people, but I never, ever in my time, 5 years at university, played university sport. My first experience in university sport was turning up to trials, 20 minutes of rugby, 7-8 hours of the inevitable drinking games, initiation, etc. And I wasn't brilliant at rugby at that point, but I wanted to improve. So I knew I didn't want to be in that space. So I literally instantly turned my back on anything to do with university sport, and going across two sporting institutions I ended up going to. And that kind of fast forward to having a career in the sport, that was a bit more of an uphill for me, because I actually really didn't understand what was on offer in the university, because I just didn't, out with going to the gym, I'd never understood what was behind the door of that, what was actually being supported in the support system and network around student sport. It just didn't come across my radar at all in my time at uni, because it just shut me down from it. But obviously, like I said, once I understood what we're doing and the power of what we offer, it absolutely has instilled in me the desire to, just if we can stop that happening to another 5-10 people, then you've done a job. So I just want to make sure we remove as many barriers as possible. So yeah, so it's kind of changed my mindset on not change it, but just reaffirm my mindset on, it doesn't have to, we shouldn't be doing it that way. It's got to be inclusive and support everyone.
And I think it's a really good point, isn't it? Because I think we are, we're very passionate about the work we do and the value of our contributions to the university. But it's a good reminder that there are times that, university sport can also have some unintended consequences for individuals that maybe get to experience that. And it's how do we continually make sure that isn't the outcome for as many people as possible. So thanks for sharing that with us. Is there anything that you've changed your mind about recently?
If I say no, it makes me sound quite I'm a dictator, isn't it? But well, I mean, so over the last about 2 years ago, I managed to get restructured. My previous deputy, Anne-Marie Hughes, retired, and because we were growing so much, it was really challenging to have one person that was really knowledgeable on operations, kind of high level operations and high level sport. So I managed to get the case across to split that. So I've got a head of operations now and a head of sports development. Obviously, I had about 6 or 7 years in the previous structure where I was really getting my hands dirty in a lot of stuff. So I really have to work on my mindset of having to take a step back. Now, I do say to them all the time, kick me, push me, tell me to go away if I'm getting too involved. But so I do see it myself. I generally see that I'm doing that probably more than I should. So I need to take cognizance of their level of expertise and the autonomy that I want them to have, and step back to just give them that freedom to deliver. So yeah, that's something I'm probably working on to make sure I really give them that space, because there's no point employing them otherwise, because they're bloody good at what they do. So let them get on with it.
Great. And so, if you were starting your career again, what would you not do?
I would not take part in student sport, because now, like I said, now I know what we do and the power of it and the enjoyment you see. I shouldn't have let that one experience really let me disappear. I should have gone and tried volleyball, tennis, whatever, just to get something. So yeah, that is something that is probably the fundamental that I would not try and do again. So yeah, that's quite a simple one, that one.
And then, very last question then. So, we have a lot of aspiring sport professionals that will listen to the podcast. So if you had three pieces of advice, what would you tell them?
So I'm gonna steal the kind of expression, as it were, from somebody I heard recently that I just thought it was just a really simple, fun way to say it. The Bucks network as a whole and system is a great cheat code. And that's the expression to understand, get some knowledge or lots of knowledge, and see best practice and get real tangible sight of it, because we're all willing to share. But but as an individual to develop yourself, there's no cheat code for public speaking. No one can tell you really how to do it, how it feels. You just got to do it and just get over that hurdle yourself. You can obviously get some guidance, coaching, but you're still you standing up there. So you've really I would just encourage as many people, to take the experience and opportunity as many times as you can, because it supports every aspect of your life. Presenting, or pitching an idea to go into interviews or public speaking at a conference or whatever. It just builds that comfort, that confidence. So I would just encourage people to just lean into that discomfort space and just give it a go, and practice will get you more confidence. So I mean, I said to you when you invited me to this, I said, well, okay, I'm in. I'll lean into the discomfort. I think people should be able to accept that it's okay that you can't be everything to everyone. We are, everyone in the sector, we're passionate and we're driven people to do whatever we can, but there is a line. There is a line on that. So we just have to take comfort that you do your days, you do your weeks, and you do everything you can. But there's still more we can do. Of course there is. But it's okay that you haven't got to, and don't beat yourself up about that. You've done everything you can for those things that you've worked on. But that's one thing we try and do, is we try and do what we can with quality, because then that's the quality experience. But we still try and keep it as broad as possible. But we just can't do everything. And the last thing I would say, I've been in the university sector for coming on 22 years, and I still rely on others to tell me knowledge. I don't know everything. I need people around me to help me do my job and inform me. And it's, to me, it's a sign of strength and confidence, not weakness, that you ask for help and you ask for opinions and you want to collaborate with people. You should never feel as though they'll look down on me because I'm not sure how to do this yet. And that's the thing. It's a yet. If you've never done something, you don't know what you don't know. If you've never done it before, we all need help. But then you can grow in that experience, and then you'll be able to shape it and do it a different way. But collaboration is always the best way to do things. I mean, our partnerships, we've never had the impact in our performance pathways if we didn't partner with the Warriors and Scottish Netball. We wouldn't have had the impact, and that's really important as well. So don't be afraid of asking for help. To me, it's a strength that you've got the confidence to do so.
Brilliant. Well, that is an amazing way to finish the episode. Three brilliant takeaways there from your experiences, Neil. And yeah, thank you so much for lifting the lid on your journey at Strathclyde and where the university is now, and some of the challenges and the opportunities that you see. It's been a really great conversation. Thank you so much for joining the pod.
Thanks, Ben, and obviously thanks for this pod. It's just superb. I know you've now got the big hitters coming in series three. So yeah, I appreciate the ask, but yeah, long may this continue. It's great.